I'm gonna be really honest, I didn't actually expect to be covering this again anytime soon. I feel like I literally just talked about this, but the remote functions for Svelte just dropped. I really thought that these were gonna come later in the year, but they're here. I think it was just like a couple weeks ago when I made the video going over the PR for these things and how they're gonna fundamentally change how Svelte works. And now they're here. They are technically flagged as experimental, and they will probably change a little bit under the hood. They're not quite ready to be used yet, but that's not going to stop me or probably most of you. So I wanted to talk about these. I'm technically at my real job right now, but he won't notice I stole his studio, hopefully. And yeah, for those of you who haven't seen what these actually are, the remote functions are very similar to kind of like tRPC. They are RPC-like functions that we can define within SvelteKit that will give us type safety on queries, forms, commands, pre-render. Query is very similar to like a GET request. Form is like a post request with a form action. Command is like a normal post request. And then pre-render is like a statically rendered thing at build time. These all honestly look how you would probably kind of expect them to look. I'll have all of this linked down below if you want to read deeper into it. I'm not going to go through and make you listen to me read through all of this. That would just get really boring really fast. But you can kind of quickly see here how these actually work. We define this function get posts on the server, which is a query that takes in an asynchronous function, grab a bunch of stuff out of the database, return it, and then when we want to consume this on the client, because of the new stuff that they've introduced with async svelte, we can literally just do each await get posts as blah, 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 destructure these two out here, and then use them. We would need to wrap this in a svelte boundary so that we would have a loading state for all of that stuff. But you can also use these as actual functions, which I'll show you later. I've already been putting these into my code bases because of course I have. They also have these set up in a really cool way where it's almost like kind of a React query type thing where we can do const query equals get posts. And then this query is going to have a bunch of like different states on it, kind of similar to like what React query has. It has an error on it. It has a loading state on it. And then it has a .current. The .current would be the kind of like the data. So in here, we can kind of use the normal React query pattern for doing this stuff, which I'm super, super fucking hyped to see. I was going through and trying to build out my own React query in Svelte a couple months ago. I don't know if that video ever got published because it was such an absolute shit show. I did actually get really far. I was able to get most of this stuff like implemented and working. It was really hard and I had to do an absurd amount of like type bullshit to get this to work. I did way, way, way too much with generics and spent an unholy amount of time reading through the tRPC source code to figure out how all this stuff like actually works. But by the time I was kind of wrapping that project up, these got announced. And I was like, well, I guess I'm just not going to waste my time because this is just going to be better. It's first class, built into SvelteKit. Really great to see. The queries can also take in arguments. So if we needed to pass in like a slug or something like that for getting the post, you can go down here within your query and you can define a validator for it. In this example, they ended up using Valibot, but you don't actually have to use that. You can use any standard schema validation library. So Zod, Valibot, I think effect schema should work for this. I need to test that. If that, oh God, if that works out of the box, it's gonna be, oh, that's gonna be so good. But the way I ended up implementing this in my code base is this is a command, which I'll talk about in a second here, where I'm basically just, whenever I have this command, I pass in this Zod object of, I need to have this force refresh token. And then within my asynchronous function here that you're passing in, I have force refresh token as a variable with full type safety. If you don't pass this in on the client, you'll get a type error and also it will 400. I'm really glad to see that they ended up actually forcing validation on this. I was initially expecting them to just have you like define a function and then infer the type parameters of the arguments, but not do any runtime type checking, which could result in security vulnerabilities or any other random issues where you can get the TypeScript compiler to stop yelling at you with an any or whatever, but then the server can still process it with bad data. This way you are forced to put the stuff in. And if you have like authentication credentials and stuff in here, make sure that those are provided. And then you can go through and actually check those here with a real auth check. This is an endpoint to get an auth token. So obviously we weren't doing a normal authentication check in this, but you get the idea. They also have refreshing queries built in, so you can just do get post.refresh, and they were really smart with all this, where the queries are cached while they're on the page, so any get posts will be equal to any get posts, so you don't have to at the top of it do const posts equals get posts and then tile those together. Any get posts on the page, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but it should work for us to be able to just do get post.refresh anywhere and it will just work. It'll revalidate that data. So like on a form submit or whatever on success, we want to go through, fetch the new data from the server. Super easy to do that with full type safety, all that stuff. The queries are really, really nice, but one of the ones that I really, really wanted was the form. The form is the kind of replacement for form actions. I've always had a lot of issues with like the type safety and workarounds in those things. They work really well and they do the progressive enhancement side of things in a pretty good way, but it was always really awkward to try and get like type safety on the arguments you pass in on both client and server, and then also on like the results if you wanted to do like a single flight mutation where you go up, change some data on the server, create a new thing, and then you want to pass that back down in that same request, like the ID or whatever. It was really annoying to pull all that out. The states were just gross. The syntax sucked, and this is much, much better. The forms work like normal forms, so we can have our data in here. Data.get is form data, so we can pull all that stuff out here. And when we actually want to use these, it's again kind of a similar syntax where we're creating a form and then we're doing passing in create post, which is a form action effectively. Whenever we hit the submit button, it will run that form action and just kind of work the way you would expect it to. And yep, exactly like what I was saying before, I hadn't even pre-read this, but the single flight mutations, they have this built in a really nice way where all queries used on the page along with any load functions are automatically refreshed following a successful form submission. It ensures that everything is up to date, but it can also be pretty inefficient, meaning that like you'll do the request up and down to the server and then you'll have to refresh. They have a way to specify which queries or whatever should be refreshed whenever you submit the form in a single flight mutation, which means that within our create post here, we have our get post defined up here. We can do get post.refresh. So after we create the post, instead of having to return the new data and then go through and like update our local state array or whatever, we can just do get post.refresh. And then all of the instances on the client where we were calling get posts will automatically be refreshed just from that one API call, which is really, really cool. You can return redirects from these things, but you can also return just like normal data. So here we have this create post, which is returning a success equals true. And then on the actual page, we can do create post.results, and this will give us access with type safety to the thing that we're returning from the form action. This was one of those things that was just, like I said earlier, super jank to get out of the old system. It just didn't feel good, and I never found myself like really wanting to reach for those. These I will very comfortably want to reach for, and it feels a lot better. The enhance method is also still here. This was one of the best things about the original form actions where we had the progressive enhancement where you could do like the override so that you can pass in a function, which we can use for things like showing a toast on success, showing a toast on error. All that stuff can just be built in with just injecting a little bit of JavaScript into this form in a really nice way. Glad to see that this stayed around. They also introduced the command, and this is kind of like more of a generic post request effectively. It allows you to write data to the server without being specific to a specific form or something like that, which oftentimes I find I kind of like. There are a lot of cases where you would maybe have like a delete button on something, which it's kind of annoying to have to turn that into a form or some toggle or settings thing or whatever. I like having the ability to just define these like random endpoints or whatever and just call them as I need them. These are the way you do that, and they work very similar syntax to kind of like the queries where we can pass in arguments here. So like this command, we'll take in a string, and then we're going through and adding a like to something where the ID equals ID, and the ID is the thing that we're passing in here. On the client, if we want to call this, it's literally just a function, which is it's so good. This is what I wanted. I wanted my backend stuff to not be writing HTTP or dealing with some weird stuff there or having to deal with all the craziness of the form actions and progressive enhancement. I just want to call functions on my client and my server. That's why I like full stack TypeScript. I want to think of my application holistically on both the client and the server, and I want to just be able to call these things like functions. And this really enables that in a way that I haven't really seen anywhere else other than kind of like TRPC. TRPC is the other thing that does this really, really well, but this is this is kind of a layer below TRPC, where with TRPC, oftentimes you're wrapping it with React Query if you're using it within React or something like that. This is literally just a normal function. So this is an asynchronous function, which I could call within an onClick, within some event, within an effect. Oh, okay, you probably shouldn't do that. You probably shouldn't call these within effects, but you get the general idea of how these can work in a really, really nice way. This is actually the one that I was using for this project here, where I have this get auth token command, where I'm using WorkOS for my auth provider in this project, and I'm using Convex for my database. And what this means is that whenever I'm setting up my Convex client on the client to be able to like run my mutations and queries to get data for the user, I need to be able to set an authentication token for this. And since we're using WorkOS for the authentication, my access token comes from them, and that needs to be stored on the server. For a variety of reasons I don't want to get into for right now, I'm storing like the session within a cookie, and then WorkOS is a little jank where like the session cookie isn't actually an access JWT, so you have to use the session cookie to get a JWT, and then like I'm caching the JWT in a cookie. It's a little fucked. I probably need to find a better way to do this, but The point is I need to go to the server to grab the JWT to pass into Convex and make sure that this all actually works. So I have my Convex client here, and then I need to set the authentication for this so that when I log into my app, I am authenticated correctly. And the way I do it is I just pass in this get auth token function. And when I F12 to this, look at that. It's my backend function because the entire code base is just one thing, both front end and back end. I love this so much. They did a really good job with this. And all the niceties we had before in SvelteLand with like the event in a load function or a form action or just a normal server endpoint have carried over. If we need to get the event object, which is just a request event, we can do get request event within here. And then I have all that. And then whenever I go into my get cached auth token function here, I can work with my cookies, do all this stuff. And that's actually the reason why this is a command and not a query, because obviously I'm getting something here. I'm not really doing a lot of settings. So why am I not making it a query? And the reason for that is you can only write cookies in a command or a form action. I think generally this does actually make a lot of sense, and it does force you to like use these verbs correctly, effectively. And I have to be able to set these because whenever I'm authenticating and make sure the user is who they are, I want to be able to effectively cache the access token for as long as it can live so that I'm not constantly just carpet bombing WorkOS every time I need to make a request. That would get really slow and gross. Now I can just have it set as a cookie that will last as long as it needs to. Convex will tell me when it's expired with this force refresh token boolean, and because like if it is cached, I just return it. And if I have to go through and get a new one, I need to set it, which I can do down here with event.cookies.set, and it all just kind of works like a normal server endpoint. It's really clean and easy to work with. Single flight mutations also work within the new commands. So if I had a command to like update user preferences or whatever, and then within my layout, I was doing a get user preferences call or something like that, it's super easy for me to just do a get likes, pass in the ID, and then refresh. Again, then I'll get refreshed on the client all in one flight, which will make the app much more efficient, much faster, just feel much better for the end user. It's really well designed, very happy with this. The final one is the pre-render. This is very useful for something like blog posts or whatever. If you're storing those within a CMS or something like that, just static content that needs to be loaded in at build time. These are the way to do that. You can just basically pre-render this result, and then it will be invoked at build time to pre-render the result, and then it'll just be cached effectively. So whenever you hit that endpoint, you'll just grab JSON out of a CDN instead of going through and doing a server-side call. This is for static data, not dynamic data. Works very similar to a query. There's also good stuff in here for like handling validation errors. If you don't want it to just be a generic 400 that's like, hey, you needed to provide this or whatever, you can go through and define a handle validation error function within your hooks.server.ts. You can give a special error message or whatever to handle that gracefully on the client or something like that. They, like I said earlier, have the get request event, and redirects are totally available in queries, forms, and pre-renders, but they're not possible within commands just because of kind of the way those work. It's just, they could implement it, but they don't want you to use it that way, which does make a lot of sense. This is very early days for all this stuff. Like I said at the beginning of this video, these things are experimental. They're not technically ready to be used in production yet, but for like the newer stuff I'm building right now, and this is a real project that will get released. It's for internal content stuff that we use every single day. I'm going to be using these very heavily. I think that this is the correct direction for the framework to go. It's going to solve what was, in my opinion, one of the biggest issues that Svelte still had, which was the client to server communication. And it's looking really good. I think I wanted to talk briefly kind of at the end of this video on why I've been talking so much about Svelte and why I like care about this so much right now, why I've gotten so obsessed with this. And I think it's because I want a really good primitive for being able to build with the web, build with servers, do all of these different things. Everything I kind of am interested in and care about right now requires a user interface or a server or something like that to interface with the world. Whether you like it or not, the web is just kind of the best way to do this, especially to just do it quickly and get something out there. I want a good primitive for the web, and Next.js and React just weren't that for me. I know on paper, I can give you all of the arguments for why React is good, all of the good decisions they made, why it makes sense, all this different stuff. But at the end of the day, I just don't like writing it. It's not pleasant for me to write. I don't like writing use state. I really don't like dealing with Next.js. It's not for me. I've just found at a hard to explain level that I don't like it. It's even just little things where when I go to write a new component or a new page or whatever, instead of having to define like a function and then return some JSX from it, I can just start writing the HTML. And I know that sounds like a really silly little thing, but it's just, there's less friction to it and it just feels better. Not having to deal with all of React stuff and just being able to use normal client-side JS libraries right there just feels good. And with all the things I want to build and want to do and experiment with, in the AI world with like setting up MCP servers now, with building out internal tools to make my life a lot easier managing the hellish chaos that is Theo's YouTube channel and all this stuff. I want a good platform and set of primitives to work with the web, and Svelte just feels like the best one. And now that we have this, we have a good answer for going from the client to the server with just functions, the way I like to think. I don't like to think about things with like state machines or HTTP or any of this stuff. I want to think about functions, input, output, that's it. And this is perfectly optimized for this. The whole framework just feels good for this, and I'm really happy with the direction this is going. I will have more to talk about on this in the future. I want to make a video pretty soon going over like this bigger project I'm working on and how development is kind of changing. This is the first like big new project I've worked on in a while, just because of where I've been and what I've been doing. I haven't had time to do that. I've finally had something like real I want to build and have been sitting it down and doing it, and it feels really different. I'm writing more and more code with AI, and I've really kind of changed the way I think about these things, and there's a lot to talk about there. I'll synthesize those thoughts and get a video out hopefully fairly soon, and yeah. If you enjoyed this long rant about all the new stuff, you should very much go try these out. Give Svelte a shot. It's a really, really fucking good framework. If you enjoyed it, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.